Hello, everybody, and welcome to What Do You Say Anime? I am your host, Peter. On today's episode, joining me with Pat and Miles, we will be discussing the recently concluded, I'm going to put in quotations, concluded seasonal anime of Wonder Egg Priority. This was a show that caught me completely off guard. I loved every second of it, and I thought it'd be a really good episode to talk about instead of just in the review as an entire episode because there are a lot of themes, a lot of discussion points that we could talk about. And yeah, so that's the whole point of this episode of the podcast. So we're gonna be talking about the themes of like suicide that's brought into this story a lot, the themes of living your life and being who you are. So I want to get people's first impressions because we had some like pre-banter talk and some questions about it. So Pat, let me start with you. Tell me your first impressions on Wonder Egg Priority and just like your overall thought or your like feelings on the show.
Yeah, so I first started hearing about this show first couple weeks of the season, and everyone was like, "This is really good. It's really good. It's really good." And my list was too long already, so I was like, "I'll put it off. Maybe I'll touch it eventually. I'll get to it, whatever." And I got to it today, and I was blown away. I'm glad I finally watched it. Um, I'd say my first impressions were like, "Wow, this is like." Anime of the year. Like it's a front runner. Like I love this. This is fantastic. It tackles tough issues and has such lovable characters that are relatable and feel real in such a like unreal world. They manage to feel really real. Um, but I guess I have some frustrations with it that we'll get to. So yeah, I guess that's all I got.
Absolutely. And then the Maha show bro himself, Miles. Miles, tell me your like initial thoughts and your feelings on the show.
Yeah, so you quickly pegged me as someone who would like the show,
I did.
given my tastes. So once I finished reading all 7,843 hours of Yumineko, I hopped right on to Wonder Egg, and I very much enjoyed it right away. I sort of have like I guess like an inverse opinion from Pat, where I thought it was like very solid as it started, and then as it went on, I tend to like sort of abstract bullshit. So once it started like getting a little weird, I was like, "Let's fucking go!" Time to buckle up. Um, but the entire time I really liked it. I very much enjoyed all of the characters. The color is like very vibrant, which is fun. I don't like that whole like super saturated sort of thing. I like more flat sort of colors, but I thought they did a good job with it. And I really just liked the dynamic of the group. I thought that was just like the best part of the show.
I think the characters definitely carry the show. I
Me
don't
too.
think if somebody told me who their best girl was, which we will be getting to later on in the episode,
Oh God,
I don't think there's a wrong episode or wrong answer unless it's Frill. So I
Earl's
think
dope.
Frill is cool, but we're talking best girl here.
I
maybe
mean, one, I think there is exactly one correct answer to this, and two, it, Frill is just as fine with me as like I don't know Momo or something.
okay.
That's that's
We'll get to that because Frill will
yeah.
definitely be brought up. But first, I wanted to start out with the underlying themes, and we definitely see it in the first episode, and that is suicide, especially with females, and just like how it relates to. I know this is like kind of made because of the culture in Japan, where suicide is like extremely high, and the differences between the suicide between females and males is kind of referenced in the story. I believe Akka says something about how the suicides between females are different from those of males. Maybe it's Ura Akka, it's one of the two, but they reference it in the episode where I is like searching around and
Yes, I can tell you the exact quote. It's
okay,
if you want me to.
yes, please.
So it's that female suicides are emotionally driven. Male suicides tend to be goal driven, which essentially, to sum it up, would be like, oh well, men kill themselves because they don't get the job they want, or their wife leaves them, or they feel like their family is falling apart, something. Versus women would kill themselves over things that like being turned down, or not having friends, being, it just that again, that's a very uh it's almost like it's a very scientific answer to a not scientific thing. It's like a but that was the analogy that they used at least, which you definitely see the themes or the
Yeah.
that throughout the show.
Let me pose this question to both of you, and Miles, how about you start here? How did you feel about like the anime representation of them like turning this suicide type of theme into anime? Because I felt like to me it was a really unique idea, but I feel like it might resonate differently for different people.
Yeah, so I think that uh, I think they did a good job. I've never personally had like struggles with this sort of thing. With the whole suicide thing. I know it's like a very sort of common problem, and it can be emotional and heavy for people who have struggled that or people who've been like affected by it in their lives. I'm fortunate enough that I really haven't been touched by it in any sort of way. But what I did think was nice about it was there was a very large amount of compassion, for the victims of suicide, and they were treated like that, like as victims of a bad circumstance, of a issue, as opposed to um, blame being pinned on them. Um, specifically. So I mean, I thought they did a really good job. I think we still have some questions that'll be answered as we go on about exactly why and how the eggs work and like all of that, but and like why suicides, um because we sort of see two different I guess end results for the girls who kill themselves, um where you have some of them are turned into statues, and then some of them are put into these eggs where they are able to like confront what they couldn't face in their life, so they're like given that opportunity to do it's, and I'm pretty intrigued by it, but I think they did a pretty good job. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That was actually I really liked your take on it. Pat, how about
Okay,
you?
good.
Yeah, so I enjoyed the dialogue that I think that that's how they best showed uh the effects of suicide or just depression in general too on the young women that were that were the ones that did kill themselves or whatever, that were coming out of the eggs, right? Like they were, like Miles said, the way that they confronted their issues or addressed them. I liked that. I did, and I also liked that it wasn't just, oh, we confronted our issues, we saved the day. Now I'm not dead. Now I'm not, now I'm alive again. Like no, it was they were still dead, but they at least had closure. They had resolution in their lives. Which of course must have taken a toll heavily on the main characters as well. That was something that I was thinking about, that they, especially someone like Momoe was funnily enough was being told, "Oh man, I like you a lot" by like everyone that she saved, but
Yep.
um that has to have a mental strain on you, and I thought that they showed that extremely well with that. Yeah, so again, like not only just the poor children who actually killed themselves, but then also the people who were stuck trying to help them and guide them to whatever you want to say, to safety, to freedom, to uh, I don't know, retribution. I don't even know what to say. Like that's their they did a good job of showing that struggle and then that eventual release, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, for sure. It's like the moving on aspect of I mean, the underlying theme of somebody dying type of thing. I know we just did the Violet Evergarden
It's so
podcast, and,
hard.
it was very
Brutal,
similar. This is
brutal 24 hours for
brutal
me.
24 hours, but, like, this is just, like, a different take on that as well because this is more it felt like a more of, like, a release, I guess, l like, the weight off your back type of thing. I felt like that it came off really well when these people felt like they could breathe again, and I guess that was like our first initial thoughts on the themes of suicide, but there's also a whole bunch of other things that go into this story. And I think the leading factor is the casting characters. We have a huge range of characters. With our four main girls, the two scientists or whatever you want to call them, Akka and Ura Akka, the supporting cast with the people inside the eggs, and then essentially our main antagonist in Frill. So we have a lot of people. We have a lot of people in this cast. So I guess let's talk about how you felt about like this large range of cast, how you felt about like a specific character that you resonated to, whether it's like Frill being like an amazing antagonist, if you do view her that way, how you view Akka and Uraraka, whether they are these brilliant scientists or are they these like manipulators. So, Miles, how about your thoughts on like just the cast and maybe someone that you resonated with?
Sure. So I went to, this is like, I guess I don't know if I'm doing some like nitpicking here or whatnot, but like I guess I don't think I would necessarily consider Frill the main antagonist, right? So what we know is that ultimately this is a they're fighting against like what they call Thanatos, right? Thanatos is a Greek god, I believe.
The Greek god
Um,
of death. Yep.
yeah, so he of specifically nonviolent death, I believe. Per my googling, I don't know
Hmm.
how big the distinction was. Um, and that there is this often alluded to in the show, like pool of death. The idea of, I guess, the relief of death, of unburdening yourself through,
Temptation, right?
yeah, like the temptation, I believe, is what they say, of death.
Yes.
Like the fact that, like, these poor girls' lives are very difficult. They have, a lot of things that are going on. Everyone who's been an adolescent is definitely felt confused about this and that. It's a very hard time in, many people's lives. Um, and they are, trying to get past that. And I think Frill is someone who, while definitely antagonistic, as it is heavily insinuated or believed. I guess it's not insinuated. It is believed that she is working towards pushing the girls towards that, right? The girls who kill themselves, who we see in these like egg dreams and everything in Egg World. But she, I think, is sort of a person who also is caught up in that sort of temptation sort of thing. Like, I don't think she is a victim of this sort of thing, of the same stressors and the, like, abuse or whatever, the neglect that affects these other girls. Frill was also, you know she also experienced that from her
A
parents and
thousand
stuff.
percent.
And yeah, and so she's obviously handling it pretty poorly. um
Yeah, there's different routes you could take.
it,
I
it,
don't agree with how she did it.
yeah,
She's so innocent though. At the end of the day, like she's not doing it out of malice or anything.
yeah,
It's not
she genuinely doesn't understand. I don't even know if she's capable of understanding.
right.
It's not her fault for being made the way that she was made. Um, and so I think that the main, I guess, antagonist, if I want to get, I don't know, fucking metaphysical or whatever, this is
Yeah, let's
probably
do it.
too pretentious, but like, I think the main antagonist of the show is like the temptation of death, right? Like, it is the idea that life is hard and how easy it would be to unburden yourself. The idea that death is easier than life, that concept that has pulled in so many of these characters, and resulted in them killing themselves because of the issues that they faced, because they didn't have the support structure that they needed, or they felt like they didn't, or other people were not there for them or pushed them towards that, whether that be Frill or bullies at school, or a coach who was sexually abusing them or whatever, who made them, that society is the antagonist, but like, that's what it is, right? Like, that's sort of my view on it. And I think that, you know more so than just suicide, this show does a very good job of examining why why these different characters do that. And there's a massive span of reasons that we go across.
Yes,
And we get to
absolutely.
see in the last episode that, like, how lost these characters can feel, because Ai's perception of her teacher in the two versions of her are so different, right? So, like, I don't even know. That's something that hasn't been answered quite yet either, is if the teacher is is a
is
good or a
actually a
bad guy.
scumbag or not.
We don't
Yeah.
know yet.
He's
so-
definitely like a bad guy in the other parallel world, I'd say, but like in the real Eyes world, I still think that's up for interpretation.
See, that's so weird because to me, the way I interpreted that scene or whatever was as what I's perception of him would be like from a fully negative way, or versus what it could be in like a positive light. You know, like she's sitting there arguing that no, he's not like that. That's just what I think he's like. That's just what I'm afraid that he's
Yeah,
like
I had
for
the
the sake
same
of my mother.
yeah. And I don't know. I could see because the other eye did kill herself, right? Like it is
Mhm.
not impossible that he did not actively push her towards that in some way in that world. And then in this world, he pushed her friend whose name I'm forgetting currently. Um
Koito.
Koito towards it, because in the other world, doesn't have that support, that friendship support. So we don't know.
Yep.
But like, I mean, with how grotesque and sort of exaggerated the egg monsters are, I think you see how terrifying, some of these things are. Even the things that are, more innocuous. Now, not all of them are innocuous. Some of the things are absolutely awful. There's like a cult leader. There's a coach who raped one of his students and stuff. But in Ai's case specifically, at least our Ai's world, it was jealousy of her mom because she had a crush on her teacher, and the teacher wanted to date her mom.
Yep.
So like that isn't a world shattering thing, but when you are a confused, teenager, um, who has no support, who has all these other pressures and stuff, that can seem like a big thing. I don't know. I thought that it just did a very good job of showing the compounding reasons that things like this sort of happen.
But yeah, I agree completely. I think that we went on a bit of a tangent because this was, I believe Pete's initial question was what we thought about the characters.
Yeah,
Well, I mean
maybe,
that's
yeah.
part of it.
Oh no, I
The
know.
cast
Yeah,
leads into these type of stories, which
of
is
course. I just thought it was funny that I was like trying to draw what my initial thought would have been
Yeah, that's
on the
sorry.
cast,
Yeah, I did
but
get a little on like how we should define like the roles
the
that
yeah
some
the
of these
antagonist.
characters
Yeah,
hold.
yeah,
right.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's what started that tangent. That was funny. I again, that's why I thought it was just funny.
Well, yeah. I guess I brought the question because like I've seen a lot of people like defend with and like against like Akka and Ura Akka. Like, what are they doing? Are they doing something good? Are they doing something bad? What are their intentions? And that leads into Frill, obviously, since they are the ones who created her. And I just think like Frill is like the physical antagonist, and then like what Miles said, like there's another antagonist in terms of like society and all this other mumbo jumbo that goes along with it. But there's so many different talking points, which is why I wanted to have this conversation to begin with, because there's just so many different stories that like resonate within each character and with each egg, which brings me to my next point. Is there like a specific episode that like really hit you or that you found like really fun? Because this, I feel like the show does a really good example of mixing the two together. The friendship between the four was a great like lighthearted series between the four to like uplift your spirits because they have a lot of fun together. You can see that they're like truly friends. And then a lot of the times in the episodes of them saving people and their eggs, there's a lot of times there's even if they do win, there's like a negative side to it. There's like sometimes it like brings you down depending on like the situation. And just for me, it was the Momo and Karu episode. I believe it was like
that was 10.
10. Episode 10. I really enjoyed that a lot because it shows like Karu is a trans man having struggles being in a like a female body. You see that she was raped and was impregnated, and a lot of these like circumstances that led to her suicide. And I
yes,
thought
but
I
it's okay.
I just feel like that's like so relevant to today's age where more people are able to feel comfortable coming out as like trans, non-binary, gay, whatever it is. And I thought just that episode was like super special. I even changed my Discord profile picture to Karu. I really resonated with that episode. So That's just me. Pat and Miles, I don't know if you had something similar to that where it's just like this episode was like this was like a 10 out of 10 for you because I feel like there's maybe a couple that people could resonate. So let's go with Pat first.
Yeah, so just when I was looking back right now at the episodes, again, I watched them all relatively recently too, because I did binge most of the show. I guess the episode right before that with where it was with what's her name, Nehru and her friend. I thought that that episode was really well done. So that's episode 9, being where she has this friend who's now technically brain dead or in a coma, whatever. She
She's like
is
a
for all.
vegetable or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, she is dead by all. Her body is still alive, but she's dead. Is probably the
Yeah.
best way
Like
to phrase
machines
it.
are keeping her alive.
And I thought that the way that all the 4 characters reacted, or the 4 main cast reacted to this situation that they were in, where they were talking like, "Oh man, like okay, is it time to put her down or take her off life support?" So especially since they found out that her wishes were to be off of life support before the government come takes her body. I didn't love that part, the government being so involved. Again, I don't know. This is gonna get my complaints later on in the show, but I did like this specific episode because it gave us essentially all 4 characters realistic reactions to a person's death, or having to control whether someone lives or not, and I really liked that.
Yeah, I think with Neru's character, who is probably the most closed person, this episode really showed her opening up to everybody and showing her like her life because you find out that like she's like the CEO of a company. She's like a essentially like a created genius,
Yep.
and it seems like to at least from my perspective, she didn't really have friends growing up. She had this one person who is dying or is literally dead, and that's like the only person who she ever like really had like a real connection to, and it was her opening up to everybody else, showing her her life. So I also thoroughly enjoyed that episode. Miles, how about you?
So I think my favorite episode was the one that focused on Rika and her mother. Um, I I don't know. I just really liked that relationship and how you sort of got to see Rika mature and sort of be able to, I guess, empathize with her mother more, but not necessarily. It wasn't like a like a super happy ending, right? Like, but it was one where she was able through her experiences through these eggs and stuff to understand her mom more and to understand that like her mom does kind of suck, but
Yes.
life is really hard and she is trying, um and that maybe she had been a little bit unfair to her, obviously not completely, but um just seeing a character gain that ability to like empathize with someone else, I really enjoyed. I thought that was good. I thought it showed a very, I guess, like realistic dynamic between two characters.
Yes. I guess we can. Those are like the episodes that like resonated with us. Maybe there's others as well, but I just wanted to get like everyone's opinion on one because the beauty of the show is it resonates with everybody in different ways. So it's really cool to see that we picked 3 different episodes that we thought were like standouts. I guess we'll put it that way. Maybe we can talk about like the really cool like dynamics of the show. In terms of the more technical side, so like the animation, the music, the things that they use in the show to highlight it. So for example, like the animation is just insane. Every single fight is incredible. Especially, my favorite was the coach in episode 2. I thought they did a great job, and just like I don't know, there's some like really silly moments as well in it where like she gets kind of like boob milked, purple goo in her face, and she can't see. Like I don't know how else to describe it, but that's what
Yeah,
happens.
that is what happens. Yep.
I mean, there's like the duo fight with Rika and I when they're saving the 2 like idol loving twins. I don't even know if they're twins, but they act like they
Yeah,
are.
Yeah, they're similar at the very least.
But I thought it was also really cool the weapons that they use. Using her pen that turns into like a giant hammer. Rika's is more of like she cut herself and her weapons are scissors and she can split them into two. I thought that was a really unique idea. Nairu is like just like a straight up gun. She uses
she
assault
has a
weapons.
compass,
Oh, she has a compass. Sorry, but
like a drawing compass that acts as a fucking laser.
yeah. The laser beam is what finishes the job.
Yes.
And then Momo has like she's like the spear hero, I guess, and just stabs people, but a much cooler spear hero. She's my
It's like
spear hero.
an umbrella or something, right?
I thought it looked like kind of like an umbrella. It's hard to tell exactly.
We don't see Momo fight like a lot at
No.
all.
You
One
see her
time
fight in like the first time we see her. There's like a montage, and then yeah, the Karu episode. So yeah, I mean it is limited, but like I guess there's elements. So is there anything like small things like that that you guys found in the show that was like really cool? Whether it's like the clothing, like how they represent them, or something like that. So one of you guys go first. I don't know.
I'll go. Well, yeah. So I think just in general, the animation is a pretty easy thing to talk about with this show because it's done by Cloverworks, who usually do really good work. But this one, I think this one shined in terms of like compared to their stuff in the past. Like it's just beautiful. The pastel colors, everything else, it looks just fantastic. Um, I don't. The music as well. Just the production in general of this show, which is interesting considering the circumstances that I have heard about the production of this show, is incredible. Like the music is fantastic. Both the opening and the ED feel like they belong with the show, but also the OST itself is great. And again, the animation is just stunning throughout the show. It highlights it and it enhances the show rather than just being there or making it worse. I don't know. But again, the production value is so there when we also had a recap episode to make up for lost time or for them to have more time to make the show. Like you really couldn't tell the dip in quality. At least I couldn't. Even near the end, near the final few episodes where you would expect to see that considering the circumstances. I don't know. What do you think, Miles?
Yeah, so like I mean I think the production was really good. There's a lot of like really interesting things. So, like I was just reading up on something where so the Wonder Eggs have the name of the girls who are in the egg written in the Gold Bug cipher from Edgar Allan Poe's story The Gold Bug. And like in
Interesting.
episode 1 I catches a golden bug and buries it, right? So like
Hmm.
there's just like a lot of neat things like that. I haven't read the Edgar Allan Poe short story. I'm not sure if it would like enhance my experience or the references that they're trying to make. If I did, but that's something I'm going to do now because of how the show works. Um, I thought that um, I guess just like the way that they like the direction and writing as far as their friendship goes, like between the four girls, um, was done really well. Like I think they showed like through dialogue and stuff, um, a evolution of friendship, like a very good one. Like you know, they start off not knowing each other as well, and then as they get to know each other more, they're more comfortable teasing each other and laughing about things, and they're better at innately understanding when someone's upset or when you know, like Neru's just being weird and introverted. You know, like
Yeah.
they get each other's intricacies, and that I think is what makes like a really well written character. And that's why I think that's really where I think the show shines, because in order for the characters to do that, the people who were writing them had to intimately understand them, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's like the part as far as like the technical work of it goes, like the writing and the direction for all of that, that I was most impressed with.
Well, let's talk about. I think that's another theme that we can talk about is the friendship between the four girls because they each kind of had their own different evaluations of friendship. Where I had essentially one friend and she killed herself. Niru is like this. She's kind of like stuck in her like company where she doesn't really have like the same life as the other girls. She doesn't get to experience the other things. So
She also had one friend who killed herself.
she also had one friend who also died. Rika is this idol where I'm gonna put it in terms of like maybe like a celebrity, a lot of fake friends. Everybody that she meets comes and goes, except for the one girl who's like her super fan, which I think she took to heart, which is why she's trying to save her because this super fan was a little different compared to other people. And then Momo had friends, but it seems like a lot of times those friends were to get to the point of a relationship. And that's something Momo did not want at all, especially since they're all girls and she's like 1,000% straight. And it's just a really interesting dynamic that you have like these four different girls all coming together to become friends from four different circumstances. And I think that's like the brilliance of the screenwriting between the characters, their development, how they interact with each other. Where we have Rika how I view Rika is the glue of the team. She brings everybody together. She initially becomes friends with I, which leads them to become friends with everybody else. You see that Rika forces Neru to like laugh in the one scene they're all eating like cake in Ai's room. And it's like the first time you see her smile. And it's like these different situations that they all bring them together. So that's just my take on like the friendship theme. I don't know if any of you guys want to like bounce off that in terms of like how you felt like their friendship, like because I thought it was like a major point of the story and added to like my value overall of how I felt about the show.
Yeah, I mean, I love the friendship. Again, like the characters were probably my favorite part of the show. So that whenever they were bouncing off each other, interacting, even in the group text messages, they had their own personalities and flair to it, which I thought was great. Um, one quick note, it was talked about in the final episode mainly, but you mentioned how like, oh, I had only one friend who killed herself, but and doesn't she even say too that that really wasn't a real friend? It was a fake friend. It was just a person being there, right? That's how she perceived. God, what's her name? Koito or whatever.
Koito.
Right by the end of it,
I think that's up
which I
for
think,
debate
Well,
because
she
she's
says
literally
that she didn't know Koita. That's, I
yeah.
think, a little different than it
I
not being a real friend. I think that
I guess, yeah,
because I was in such a vulnerable place that she wasn't the good friend, right? Koito, I think, was a good friend, but I didn't like reciprocate that because she was dealing with her own stuff,
hmm
and she wasn't able to like, I guess, understand that Koito was so close, like that she needed that help too. Um, because she was so focused on using her for the help that she needed, I guess, at the time. And I think that's part of Ai's struggle and part of her desire to get Koito back so that she can be there for her in a
Yep,
proper
mm,
manner.
I agree with that.
fair enough.
Do you have anything else, Pat, that you want to talk about with that?
No,
How about you,
again,
Miles?
that's
Then
all I had. Yeah,
Yeah, so I mean, I think we all just generally agree. I do like, Pete's point. I think that Rika being super like extroverted and, first she comes off as sort of, I don't know, annoying and mean or whatever, but like you learn that it's all pretty friendly and everything, and she's outgoing and willing to like go out and like make sure people like become her friend and stuff. There was a moment that I remember um it's pretty far on, and I think it's the episode where Momo's date goes wrong or whatever. When it was a gay dude who asked her out
yep.
because he thought that she was a dude or whatever. And um so I goes to like take care of her just like randomly. She's like, because I does this all the time. She's like, oh, I just remembered like a thing I have to do, because she's
yeah.
like gathered the courage to do something she wanted to do. So she runs off, and Rika and oh my god, what's the
Nehru,
Nehru? Yeah,
Nehru,
thank
yeah,
you. I have a hard time with Japanese names if they're not like three letters.
Or two, like
yeah,
I.
Yeah, or just like Momo, which is just like repeated. Um, and so they are together, and Nehru and Rika, and they have not got along historically. Like they didn't like each other that much to start off with. Nehru was like particularly antagonistic towards Rika, didn't really view her, and then they're like, "Want to go get ramen while we wait for this to like sort out?" And they were like, "Yeah," and they like just did it. And I think it was something that's like such a subtle moment, but it's just like they're friends now, right? And it's just
yep,
showing that they're friends because there are a lot of these dynamics and these shows, and I think people have these friendships in real life where you're friends with someone in a group, but like if it was just the two of you, you'd never hang out.
1,000%.
Yeah, right. And it's like it's not like you don't like them or you're not like friends with anything. It's just like that super deep friendship bond like isn't there. And I think that was great to just show that even these two characters that are so opposite of each other, right? Like one is, it's the logical versus the emotional sort of thing. Nehru is just super logical. She thinks through everything. That's how she was raised. And Rika, wears her heart on her sleeve. She's, just super emotional and lets her passions and whatever she's feeling carry her, right? But these girls have managed to forge like an actual friendship with each other where they're happy just hanging out together, like it's not like, okay, like see you next time the group meets up. It's like, let's go hang out by ourselves. Yeah. And so I thought that was just like a really subtle thing that I enjoyed about the friendship.
It's cool. I mean, we compared a lot to like, I mean, the comparisons with Madoka are definitely there, and it kind of has that same group dynamic where you have like the extroverted and introverted group. Very similar, I thought, like where like Madoka is kind of introverted, Ai is kind of introverted, and then you have like the more extroverted characters as well. In this case, it was Rika, which I think we should just transition into Best Girl, like because you can. I think this is a really good conversation because I thought all four girls were fantastic. I am currently wearing an Ai Auto shirt, but she's not my best girl, even though I absolutely
Really?
adore her. But like what Miles said, I think Rika is my best girl. To me, she felt like she was the glue between all four of them. She broke people out of their shells, especially I, and really got to open up in a really difficult situation where they're all going through it together. And I loved it. And you also got to see like the side of Rika where she actually cares about like her friends, where there's two specific instances, one where they're bowling and I is like, "Oh, like this is like my first social outing. We should take a picture." And I does like the super strong pose, and then Rika's like genuinely happy to take her picture. And I thought it was a really just cool scene. And the other one is where I and Niru are talking about Sensei, and essentially gets it out of I that I has a crush on Sensei, and Rika's like, "Oh, what?" And
I remember that. That was so fun.
and she like jumps out of her seat. She's like, "Yeah!" She starts like dancing a little bit, and it just shows like that though she is like this goofball, she maybe pushes the limits too much sometimes. That she genuinely cares about all of these people, all these Wonder Egg girls together, and I just thoroughly enjoyed Rika. She's my favorite character. She had like a very just relatable instances, I think, with a lot of people because she had like the the responsibility of being an idol. You can take that. Maybe not everybody's an idol, but like you have like that responsibility that maybe takes up a lot of your time. Maybe it's not something you want to do. The parental issues with her not knowing who her dad is. Her mom like straight up says like one of these five dudes is maybe your dad. And when she shows her like the Polaroids, it's like that's like I feel like a lot of people have like some like it might not be the same parental issues, but like that's like a real root cause of her stress. And I feel like a lot of people have that parental, whether it's grades, whether it's like attitude type of stuff like that. And Rika really resonated. I loved it a lot. So I'm just gonna go to Miles because I know who his best girl is, and so he can kind of like bounce off what I was thinking.
Rika. Um, so I love Rika. I think she's great. I think that she's super fun. I like that she has that outgoing personality. She's willing to have fun. I think what really super cemented it for me was the shared dream episode where um I was asking like how it's defined whose dream like they get to like I guess or like which person's like the dead person statue they get to like work towards helping,
Yeah.
and it was based off of who cared more. And like it like you learn that like this entire personality has sort of been like a bit of a veneer. Like she's working on she said she doesn't care about this person, but she very obviously does and takes responsibility for it. And like just all of this. And like so I thought that was super cool. um like Pete mentioned, so like I love gossiping. I love talking about things like, like I guess like almost everyone I know is like dating someone or engaged, so you don't get to do it as much. But like, like people's love
Yeah,
lives and like
yeah.
things like that. Well, besides,
Yeah, besides some middle-aged men on an anime podcast or something like that.
almost everyone. Hey, well,
The
the
two
Pat's
people
not
he happens
middle-aged.
to be talking to, the two people he's talking to, it happened to be the two. But yeah, you're
Pat's
right. I
got
am
all the
not
time.
middle aged.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
am not middle aged. Not yet. I am one
Hey,
step
happy
closer
birthday, Pat, by
today,
the way.
actually.
Oh
I
yeah,
am
happy birthday! I forgot to
Thank
tell
you.
you.
Thank you. I am one step closer, but not middle aged yet.
Yeah, no,
Thankfully.
you're golden.
You're getting there.
Pete though,
Thank you.
TikTok
Oh,
buddy.
1000% middle-aged. Let's go.
And so but like, okay, again, like this whole interaction that we just had, that's something that I could see Rika facilitating.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
like,
for sure.
yeah, and like I love that. I think that's great.
Miles,
Like,
are you Rika?
Am I Rika?
Yeah.
I think that I am not cool enough to be Rika. She is like an idol, and stuff. But I think that like, as far as one, I love stirring the pot, and Rika loves stirring the pot.
Yep.
Like I do, I love it, but it's always in like a friendly and well-meaning way.
Absolutely.
And so you know what? Yeah, kinda. To be honest, like like as far as like her interactions with her friends go and stuff, I'm definitely a Rika more than any of the other girls. I think I'm like a little less emotionally driven than her, but I do like she's just so fun. I like gossiping. I like starting shit to see your friends fight each other and stuff.
Yeah.
Just like friendly trolling and whatever. Like, I love it. And she does all of that. I think it's great. I just love having fun, and so does she. So yeah,
That's a
she's
great
wonderful.
thing.
Yeah.
Pat, how about you?
I'm glad
Your
you like
best
having
girl.
fun. Yeah, so it's hard to choose. Rika is great. She really is. I enjoy her character. I also like that she was redeemable, because at first I was like, man, so she's just gonna be the bitch of the group or whatever, right? Like she's
I
gonna be
was
the.
super about it when she was that too, but I am
I
glad
was
they
about it
added some
too.
depth.
No, I was too. I was okay with it, but I was like, oh, so that's who she's gonna be. But she's an important character because she draws out different emotions in people, and she, says stuff that other people might not be willing to say, and I liked that. But then I thought about it more, and it occurred to me that there's not there are four great girls, but there can only really be one best one, and that is Ai's mom. Ai's mom is phenomenal. She is everything that you could look for in not only a mother figure, but also in a person that you might be interested in romantically as well, which is what the sensei clearly is, interested in her romantically. She's respectful, she's caring of her child, she's always there, but also isn't too pushy and lets Ai deal with the problems that she's having on her own. She doesn't she keeps reminding her like, "Hey, I'm here for you. I can do what you need me to I can try to help," but also doesn't take it too far when I says no, or when I was like, no, just leave me alone, let me be. I don't know. Again, like this normally it's a joke when you go for like the mom character or whatever. But like in this case, like, I genuinely mean it, like she's awesome. I really like her, and so that this way I don't have to pick between the four main cast. I'm not going to.
Okay.
Pick I's mom.
I respect
We should
that.
talk about that. She's a great mom, and I think
Yeah.
this is like, if we're gonna draw parallels between this and Madoka, um, I think that's a very good one to make. Is that both I and Madoka have just freaking top tier moms.
Absolutely.
And I think it's just so great because um, the way that I is able to overcome her like her issues and her troubles and stuff is that she's able to put her trust in her mom. And there's this weird jealousy she has of her mom. But one, I loved that. I mean, hopefully all of the adults are just like super like understanding of that. Like, you're having a hard time, you're confused, da 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 da. And that like her mom is just super non-judgmental. She's there to support her. She's willing to like do whatever it takes to help her daughter out, and that's just like what you need to do as a parent, right? And it's fantastic. She's a great character. Very good pick, Pat.
Best girl.
Bravo, Pat. Way to go. Okay,
Thank you.
so I wanted to get like our final thoughts on how we think the show is going to end, because this is like the theory crafting part of the episode. That's what I want. So we're only talking episodes 1 through 12. It has been announced that it's getting a special. It's listed as an episode on Mal, so I'm hoping it's like a long episode, because there are quite a few questions that still need to be answered.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It'll be interesting to see like how people view the severity of the questions they want answered. Because, for instance, like me, I don't really. I'm more interested in the Aka Ura Aka Frill storyline than, say, like the sensei, if he led to Koito's death. I feel like we can kind of put some pieces together to answer that question and have, it's like leaving it up to our interpretations, that type of thing. Like, I don't need every single question answered. So, um, it's gonna be. I think this will be really fun, because I think we're all get a bunch of different answers. So, how I kind of hoping for it, and if you guys want to chime in, let me know. So we kind of have like these 4 horsemen of the apocalypse inside of these dreams, where we have Dot, we have Hyphen, we have Kiara, and I think we have that one that was introduced in episode 12, which had like, I don't know, 7,000 nouns in her name or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Oh no, that is okay. Sorry, Kiara Rodriguez matured the 13th Evening Star SS Plume. So that's the third, and then I guess the 4th horseman would probably be Frill. I think that, yeah, because one of those people doesn't kill anybody in Niru's dream. So we have like these 3 flying insect people and Frill. So those are my 4 horsemen. So how I want it to play out is each one of them like confronts, each one of the 4 cast members confronts these 4 horsemen in some form of fight. We saw that, let me double check real quick. I believe Dot kills Rika's Pokemon, Monin.
Love that we all called it that.
Hyphen kills Panic, which is Momo's Pokemon,
Hmm.
and then Kiara kills the other form of I in episode 12. So just like getting this like confrontation between all 4 of them versus the 4 main girls, I think would be really cool. I think it sets up to be like an epic fight. You get conclusion between like that. I guess the storyline of how they solve, because like it's like the statues are never coming back to life. Like these people that they're fighting for to come back to life are obviously never coming back to life. They are dead. And I guess it's more of like, I wonder if like Akka is ever going to let go, because everybody he's essentially loved in his adult life has died by different various means. I guess I'm a little just spitballing here. Would either of you guys have like something that you want to see in like episode 13 to maybe resolve some of the issues that you have? Miles, you look interested. You go first.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that there's I don't think there's like a ton to wrap up. I think there's some things we need to connect more than wrap up. One, I'm not super duper sure that those people aren't alive in some capacity, because something happens to the statues and then they like I I don't know how that works. Like we
They haven't
see
explained anything.
they
They haven't at all.
they haven't they haven't explained how they've explained some things. They haven't explained how the statues work.
That or the setting or how the dream world works or how it's connected to reality. They haven't really explained
Did
a
you
lot
watch
of
the
that at
recap
all.
episode?
No,
Okay,
I did
well,
not.
they go
Does
into
that
that
explain
in
it?
the
Okay.
because it like recaps all of it, and they sort of like talk about how that happens or whatever.
I stand corrected then, I guess.
Um,
Can you give us
I mean, it's not like
Can you give us a too long didn't read explanation of that?
uh, frankly, I can't,
Okay.
because I didn't
Okay.
really digest it, but they do explain it because it's narrated by Akka and Uraraka, and they talk about what people have been doing. And it's
Okay.
not like the world's most in-depth explanation, right? It's just like it gives you like what happens, and you can put it together from there. But so like what I want to know is, this whole thing is like, so you have Akka and Uraraka, and they have different desires that they're going for. One is seeking revenge on Frill, and one is doing this out of a desire to be a better parent to Frill than they were previously. Is sort of what I have gathered. Akka is, because Frill murdered his child, and wife is a little more hell-bent on revenge, it appears, and is willing to make these girls sort of suffer in order to get that, where Uraraka seems to be the more compassionate one. So what I would like to know going forward is, um, one, is Frill actually connected to this and to like how these things are happening, or is she a victim of something else that's happening, some like larger thing? Because the only place we've heard her influencing things from is from Akka and Uraraka, and I don't think they have a 100% grasp on exactly what's happening. I think they are trying to do something and are way in over their heads with it.
Which makes sense because they sacrifice their bodies essentially to create this world and kind of be like immortal. Um,
Yeah.
this yeah. So going
Yeah,
over your head and
I
giving up your
I don't get
body,
it
yeah,
either.
it's confusing, but
So I think that like what I want to learn is just like exactly the connection between Frill and these characters. I just want that explained. As far as like the emotional stuff goes and what has happened, I think we have made a very large jump in understanding like eyes, like what she's thinking, why she was thinking what she, like all of that sort of like emotional baggage that has been looking to be sorted out and stuff. I think is come really far. But I want to know what the connection between Frill and that is, to like this temptation of death. Is she doing this? Why is she doing it if she is? And how Akka and Uraraka are responsible for that. And I don't think there's going to be a huge fight. I'm sure they'll fight because fights in anime is cool. But I
agreed.
has posed to herself that she wants to fight quote unquote Thanatos, this temptation of death. I could see it being more of a diplomatic conversation and like a quote unquote power of friendship thing, but with actual setup for that to not be bullshit. Um,
Well put.
but like less the power of friendship and more of a uh an understanding, right? Like Frill didn't have someone who understood her, and so can I provide that for her like she's provided that for the other girls? I'm just interested to
I
see
like
how
that.
it'll sort itself out. I don't think I need every single thing answered. I don't need to understand why this dream world exists where girls with suicide who die from suicide go to. I'm fine just like this is what happens. They're doing this to confront this issue. That can all be sort of symbology, but we have these two separate parts and I need those bridged. So for me, a satisfied ending would be bridging what is happening and what they have said the reason is, but haven't connected yet. I want that bridge to be satisfying. I
I
want it
like
to
that.
feel nice to cross that.
I like that. How about you, Pat? You got any theory
Yeah,
crafting going on in your head?
I don't have a specific theory myself, but I have what I want. So I guess that's what I'll talk about quick. I don't know. I was really enjoying the series and the direction that it was going, and I thought I understood what the message that it was going for and where it was going to end up. And then episode 11 happened and 12 happened, and it's going a completely different direction than I expected it to. I don't know. I want it to make sense out of episodes 11 and 12, and of course, I haven't had a lot of as much time as you guys have had to sit on what happened in episodes 11 and 12. But even after we talked about it a little bit before the show, I'm still not fully understanding what's her name, Frill's relevance and why they felt
We
the
need
need
that, right?
to
That's the
why
main piece
yeah
missing,
they
I think, from the puzzle.
she has no like why and Occam, and like why'd they give them a backstory so late into the show if they and then if they don't like actually do something
Mhm.
with that, that's where I'm gonna be frustrated most by if they don't. So I don't know. Again, I guess we'll talk about that in our closing thoughts as well. But
Yeah.
I am very frustrated by the final two episodes of the series itself,
It's
because
important to note that it's not the final two episodes.
It is it is the final 2 episodes of the anime, and
No,
that is an objective fact
It's
it
because
is not an
it's
objective
not.
fact because because originally this episode was supposed to air in the series, but due to medical issues that the director had, they had to push it back.
but, but it's still an OVA though, isn't it? It's a
It would
different
have been
It would have been
episode
episode
12.
13. Yeah, 12.
The
Yeah.
recap or whatever. The recap episode only got put in because of the delay in production because of the medical issues for the director.
Oh,
Yes.
I thought the
That came
medical
out like
issues were what
today.
I
So
thought the
Yeah.
medical issues were what caused the delay of the 12th episode,
No. So
not the
that would have
recap. Okay.
so you wouldn't have had a recap episode and you would have had this like we would have seen the last episode
yes.
yesterday.
The special episode that's airing in June would have been airing today. Or sorry, yesterday.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, but either way,
Because he
I'm
was
still
hospitalized twice, it
Yeah.
said in the press release or whatever.
Interesting.
Yeah, don't
Um,
overwork the directors. So, Pat, thank you. We're gonna do something like I know you get your birthday thing going on. So let's do final thoughts.
Yeah, sure.
Like your rating on episodes 1 through 12, especially it might change based off what you see from the last episode. So I'll go
It
first.
for sure will. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. To me, show has caught me off guard more than almost any seasonal ever. I'm hooked as soon as I get into it. One of the things that I rate seasonals, like if I rate it a 10, it has to be like a must watch. I have to go out of my way to watch this. If I have like a conflict, if I have a work conflict, like I'm like pushing work aside to watch an episode of Wonder Egg. That's how like entranced I am with the show. I love the characters, the music, the animation, so many different things that go into it, and the mystery. Just not knowing what's going to happen, I love. I love that we can like theory craft. I love that people can go on Reddit and give me hints and putting some things together. Like maybe this is a possibility. I love things that do stuff in shows like this. We also did it with like Perfect Blue, where like that mystery of like what we think is going to happen or what did happen. I thoroughly enjoy with that. Love all four girls. I bought a bunch of Wonder Egg merch. I'm literally wearing a shirt right now. I have a poster in front of me. This show resonated with me so much. I loved it. I'm giving it a 10. It could change based off of what the next episode is. I'm hoping it's more like Rebellion, where it's a nice conclusion to the Madoka series, where as a series, I gave Madoka a 10 because Rebellion was so good. I'm hoping we get like a 45-minute episode, even though it's probably not going to be that, but we have 3 months, so who knows what's going to happen in between, because anime can change like a day by day thing. So I'm giving it a 10. I loved Wonder Egg. I'm really happy that we got to have this conversation, just shoot the shit about it, because I think it handles a lot of different things that we don't see in anime, and I love talking about it. So, Miles, how about your final thoughts and your rating?
Sure. So, episodes 1 through whatever, it confuses me because of all the production issues. Let's call it 12 or 11. I don't know how many there were. I think I would give them like a 9 currently. I'm with Pat on some things. I think that the only major flaw I have on this is that and it wouldn't honestly be that hard to do, if you just like drop us 3 hints that Frill exists and is potentially a force in this world, just like episode 3, maybe show one of the dumb moth people like ominously
Watching.
staring at
Yeah.
people. Maybe give us like a shot of Uraraka and Raka, and then like pan over to a photo they have of their family with like Frill there, like just a couple of hints. It doesn't need to like super be about it, but just like acknowledging that she exists literally at all before episode 11, I think would go a huge way for this series. And I think that the fact that they didn't is what puts it in the teeny bit of a corner that it is in currently, where it did not give itself a lot of a time to tie this up. I think that if they successfully tie this together, which is, I don't think it's impossible. I think that, the rest of the show has been very good, so it's certainly possible. I could bump this up to a 10, or like a high 9. And I think that if they fail to tie these things together, the show probably, I get annoyed at first, and I say it's a 7, and I get super salty,
Yeah.
and then like 2 months later, I'm like, it's probably an 8, but I'm mad at it, so I'm keeping it a 7.
Okay.
That's my general thoughts on the show and how it'll go.
That's so
Okay.
funny that you bring up, that you're mad at the show, because that's kind of what I'm feeling right now. I had this while I was watching. After 6 episodes, I think I was like, "Wow, this is like a high 9, like, this is low key close to a 10, like, for me so far." And, again, like you said, episode 11 came along and, like, you liked a lot of the aspects of it and, wish that they were sprinkled out throughout the series, and I think that that would make me like it more as well. But in general, I don't know, it just felt like the show took a very different, uh it just felt very, very different, and it jarred me, and I was mad. I was very mad while watching 11 to the point where I probably didn't get as much out of 12 as I wanted to. So, again, I think if the final episode ties the series together, my rating can go up and can go back to, like, a high 9 or even a 10. Like, if the final episode makes me understand what happened and makes me, like, glad that I watched it and makes me feel like, I don't know, that it was one coherent story, then I think I could like it. But, for now, I'm gonna have to sit it at an 8 right
Okay.
now. Again,
I think that's super fair. I get the
yeah,
trepidation. And when I first watched 11, I was very much in your boat. I'm not sure if you saw in the Discord, but I was very negative about
I
the
didn't. I
ability.
avoided it on purpose because
Okay,
I didn't wanna
so
spoil myself,
you
yeah.
know, I was very negative about their ability to wrap things together.
Mhm.
Um, like to the point where I was like kind of berating Pete for being hopeful. I was like,
Yeah.
how dare you? How dare you have hope?
Yeah, my
Um,
bad.
but as I've thought about episode 11 more, and again, I don't think things necessarily should require you to like super duper reflect on them. I think all of it fits the show and the theme, but they just didn't set it up. And so it's it's it just feels jarring because the execution was a little off. But if you backtrack it a little bit, it fits, and I'm more comfortable with it now. But I
Mhm.
agree with you that that's a flaw, and no one in this episode will hear it. But I'm interested in like a week or so for you to let me know your thoughts on it.
I definitely will continue to think about this show because I again, it had an impact on me while I was watching it. I was like, "Wow, this is really well done. I'm really liking this." And then I just got mad. I got
No,
mad. Like, I got
I
tilted.
agree
It
because
tilted me,
it's
yeah.
like this mystical thing, and then they're like, by the way, an AI is responsible for this. LOL, but you didn't see that coming, and it
Yeah.
really does feel like that when you're
Well,
watching it.
and, like, when I was arguing with Pete before this, before you well, I think you were still muted or in the bathroom or something, like, I was like he's like, "Well, like, this world is already pretty unbelievable." And I was like, "No, it felt believable until it became unbelievable in episode 11." Like, there were, like, all these
Yeah,
ask pulls. I was just like,
right.
that's what it felt like to me. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes the AI is responsible for the all the suicides, and sometimes the 12-year-old girl is a murder machine. It
Yeah.
just depends on what the universe is.
Oh, yeah, and then
Uh,
sometimes they can create a 12-year-old girl out of nothing, like, because they're just that good scientists or whatever. I don't know. Again, I was so my reaction, you can check our if you join our Discord, sick plug Pat, thanks. If you check our
company man.
Discord, yeah, yeah, of course, hard worker. If you you check our anime discussion, you'll literally see me be there in the chat and be like, "What?" Like,
Yeah, yeah.
and they just go, "What?" And everyone knew what episode
Yeah,
I was
it's
Oh
just
yeah,
watching.
I 100. Well, wait,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you noticed how smug I was being when you said it was better than Madoka.
Yeah, I thought it was. There you go. That's another thing. I was like, wow, this is like better than Madoka. This is like really, really good. Which again was like a comment I made like slightly in jest, but I actually was enjoying it a lot more than Madoka, and I felt like it was attacking a lot of the same themes as Madoka in terms of like coming of age and especially in a young female. And yeah, then it again I saw your smugness, and that actually made me worried, and for good reason apparently.
We generally get each other. We've been
yeah.
watching anime together for a long time.
Yeah, I can't even do a heart with my hands, but yeah, no, yeah, we know each other very well, so there we go.
Well, I think that's just like the beauty of the show. It's up to everyone's interpretations on how they view things. Just like how Pat said, I thought the world was like crazy already from episode 1, where Pat the AI poll in episode 11 was a little different to each people. But you know what? That's the beauty of the show. And know what you can do? You can tell us your thoughts either in the comments below, or you can join our Discord. Links in the description. We have like a link tree in case you are watching on YouTube or Spotify or like Apple Podcasts. We have a whole bunch of different content. Check us out. Pat and Miles, thank you so much for joining me. We should maybe revisit this in 3 months when we get the special episode. I think that'd be really fun to get to see how things change. If
I would,
you
yeah, I would love to.
Yes.
I would too.
Sick plug, Pete. Thanks. If you like our content, if you like, comment, subscribe, it helps us beat the YouTube algorithm. So join the fight today. Yeah. Otherwise, if you like our content, we do our watch club, which is like a book club. Next Monday, we're gonna do Keep Your Hands Off Izoken. That's gonna be really fun. So, with that being said, on behalf of Pat and Miles, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.